The Jets and the Vikings
So
facing
funny.
off 9:30 a.m. Eastern time in London. So it's 2:30 for them over where they are playing
6:30
local
a.m.
times.
Pacific. I just want to point that out. It's
Ooh,
so hard. It makes
that's
my day
tough,
so
actually.
much longer.
That's tough, actually. You got to be getting the first cup of coffee at like 5:30 a.m.
Yep.
just to watch one NFL game. But we'll see how the players can adjust to adjust to the time zones and everything. The matchup that matters here in this one, other than you versus the alarm clock waking up to make sure that you get to this game,
That's the
what
matchup.
is the matchup that matters here?
Aaron Rodgers against Brian Flores, because we haven't seen anybody be able to figure out Brian Flores' defense so far this season. He has all of the personnel that he could want. The addition of Andrew Van Ginkel into Brian Flores' defense again, he was with him in Miami. He provides this chess piece for Brian Flores. And then the fact that Brian Flores is just disguising the hell out of everything between the fronts and the coverages and the way that this defense, I liken it to like an amoeba where it doesn't have a shape, it doesn't have a tendency, it can change, just in real time. Something that I got to talk to Brian Flores about before right when he took over in Minnesota was how he wanted to equip his players to be able to kind of be their own quarterback. They want to operate more like an offense and be able to kind of shift into what they're seeing on the field. It requires a lot of football IQ, a lot of intelligence on the field on behalf of these players because
Sure.
they have the autonomy to make different calls on the field based on what they're seeing. Flo told me, like, I'm not on the field. There are things that I cannot see from my vantage point. That's why I want to make sure my players who are seeing this are equipped with the solutions to the problems that they're facing. So now that he's been in Minnesota and all of his players have been in his scheme, they are definitely well equipped to do that. And they're now going against the most experienced quarterback in the league right now in Aaron Rodgers, who has seen it all. And so, what does that look like? What does that chess match look like? And I'm so excited to see it because, again, Brian Flores is going to bring so many different things. He makes all of these different, pre-snap shifts and all this other stuff to his deep. He brings that to the defense or gives them
Hmm.
the out to do that. And Aaron Rodgers is one of the best at reading defenses and anticipating what they're going to do and having all of those different solutions on offense to what he's seeing on defense. But who's going to get the better of each other? I don't know the answer to it. I'm just excited to watch it.
I'm great. I'm glad that you brought that up because this is truly one of I don't know if people are talking about it enough. I know it's a London game and it's the Jets, so it
And
it
that's going to be
probably
weird regardless.
and it probably will like get a lot of airtime with even like national media by the time we get to Sunday. But like I said it on this show before earlier this season. The way that Rodgers is operating the offense, I don't know how many other quarterbacks in the NFL, like in general, would have the success even that the Jets have had so far this season because Rodgers is so patient. He understands what he's seeing pre-snap. He is so I know he's the oldest quarterback, but he's wise when he is sitting there scanning things before the ball is snapped. And Flores, to your point, has put quarterbacks in hell all season long. Is he going to be able to do that to Aaron Rodgers, who has, to this point, it feels like seen it all? It's like the guy has the answers to the test. It really does. And it's you know, a Brian Flores test is a final exam, right? And I think that that's really what I would equate it to if you want to say that Aaron Rodgers has really seen the answer key. This is a tough test to take, even with the answer key there. My matchup that matters, I'll go to the skill positions because I do want to talk about the strength versus strength of the Jets secondary, which has been one of the best in the NFL over the last 3 years, and even including this year, versus a Vikings wide receiver core that is more than just Justin Jefferson at this point. I mean, you look at Jefferson's numbers, they're fantastic. 85.3 PFF grades, the fifth highest. He's got 358 receiving yards, again, fifth highest. 4 receiving touchdowns, tied for the most in the NFL. 7 catches of 15 yards or more. Like, Justin Jefferson is checking all the boxes. But specifically, you look at even that last game that they played against Green Bay on the road, Jalen Naylor,
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Addison,
Jordan Addison.
both of those guys above 70 receiving grade, as well as Justin Jefferson playing well too. So they are spreading the wealth. It's not just like Kevin O'Connell's like, yeah, I got one of the best wide receivers in the world. I'm just going to run everything through him. He's the primary, but he's not the only option. And he's making Sam Darnold feel very comfortable about throwing the ball a lot of different places. When you look at DJ Reed and Sauce Garner on the other side, Reed 85.6 PFF coverage grade this year. That's second amongst all cornerbacks. And then when you look at Sauce Gardner, 7 catches, 100 yards allowed all season, 1 forced incompletion for him. He's only got 10 targets thrown his way because not a lot of people like to throw to him in coverage anyways. This is a true like good on good matchup. It is the bread and butter, it feels like, of what is the strength of a Jets defense this year, which is their secondary, going up against a diverse passing group with Minnesota. So I think that is a huge matchup for this one as well. But I notice now as I am looking at the show sheet that we have the same plus factor here, and that it is New York Jets running back Breece Hall. So I will let you go first. What about the Breece Hall factor is a plus here for the Jets in this one?
Well, I put a plus factor on the Jets side of things because Minnesota has never lost in the international series. P.S. This is not they go overseas and they win, which is wild to say. The fact that they've been so consistent in games that are consistently inconsistent. So that the Jets, I think, whether or not the spread reflects that or anything like that, they might be a little bit of underdogs here. But Breece Hall is such a huge part of what the Jets are doing on offense. Part of that patience that you're talking about that Aaron Rodgers has is afforded to the Jets because they have a run game and Breece Hall to lean on. He leads a team in scrimmage yards with 308. So you stop him and you stop a really large chunk of what this Jets offense is trying to do. That makes them one-dimensional. It makes Aaron Rodgers have to throw the ball, which we know he can do, but we haven't sort of seen the chemistry that I think that we were expecting to see between him and Garrett Wilson in particular. The second leader, the guy who has the second most
there you go. We got there. We got there.
It's Allen Lazard is my point. Allen Lazard, who is the most, familiar target for Aaron Rodgers coming with him to New York from Green Bay. Allen Lazard has never really been a wide receiver one, and you have Garrett Wilson on this team. So why aren't we seeing more of that? And I think the answer is that Garrett Wilson just isn't used to playing with Aaron Rodgers yet and everything that comes with. Mm-hmm. So if you force Aaron Rodgers to throw the ball, he's going to inevitably still seek out his more familiar targets, and that's Allen Lazard. And I think that kind of works to the Vikings' favor. So you really need a lot from Breece Hall. You need to be able to move the ball down the field and kind of sustain these drives. And again, have that patience, which Breece Hall affords you.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of piggyback off of that a little bit. I agree with you completely. I think this team wants to be a rushing football team. Like even with Aaron Rodgers there, they want Aaron Rodgers in the passing game to be complementary of how they control the game and how Breece Hall is able to be their number one weapon. Now, does that necessarily mean that, he's going to have more carries than pass attempts? No, I don't think the league script right now is in the way that football is, most efficient. I don't think that that's going to be the case, but, certainly on first down, I even saw at the beginning of this season, like they want to establish things on the ground. They want to establish things with Breece Hall. They believe he is one of their best players, and he is. But when you look at his rushing production, it's not great. Somebody in the chat already pointed out 10 carries last week, 4 yards. I mean, that wasn't a lot. Now it was a downpour, it was a different game. But again, like inclement weather, you want to run the football. You want to try to control things. And specifically for Breece Hall, they want to get him involved. But right now, Carmen, he is averaging 0.1 yards before contact. The O-line is not blocking for this dude at all whatsoever. And in fact, last game, he had a negative yards before contact average. So that shows you could Breece Hall maybe make some like 1 or 2 extra guys miss in the backfield? Sure, but you can't live that way. No. You can't be getting hit at the line or behind the line of scrimmage every single time you touch the football and expect good things to happen to put you in second and favorable, third and favorable, even third and first down situations. So Breece Hall to me is the X factor because they have to get him going. And it's less so, in my opinion, about Breece Hall himself. And the dude's got to block better for him. They've got to get this guy open space. I think he can make magic happen when that is the case. But just whole rushing attack, but Breece Hall having more output for this team is really important.
Yeah, I think go ahead. No, that just has a lot that says a lot about the offensive line in particular. But the fact that the Jets are still searching for ways to get their backfield involved, because that still kind of gives you a fake run game to lean on a little bit when you're getting Breece Hall the ball in space on those short passes, those screen passes, stuff like that, which is kind of how they've gotten him involved in so far this season. But you're right. he needs to just be better purely on the ground as a running back.